Adam Fravel's murder trial is beginning to unfold in court. This morning, the jury hearing opening statements. Fravel is accused of murdering Winona mother Madeline Kingsbury.
Kingsbury went missing from the Winona area back in March of last year. Her remains were found north of Mabel in June of that year. Our sister station KTTC's Olivia Pronzinski has key moments from the opening statements.
Lead prosecuting attorney Philip Prokopowicz declaring Fravel's guilt to the jury Thursday, laying out a timeline of the months, weeks, and days leading up to Kingsbury's disappearance. The day before, Kingsbury was at friend Katie Kolka's house because Fravel was yelling and angry that she was planning to leave the relationship. According to Kolka, Kingsbury felt unsafe. March 31st, the day she went missing, Kingsbury texted her sister, dropped the kids off at daycare with Fravel, and then returned home before she was supposed to head to Rochester for work. Kingsbury never showed up to work and was never heard from again. Fravel claims to have been in the process of moving out of the Winona home and taking belongings in Kingsbury's van to Mabel. Only he didn't make it to Mabel and turned around in Choice, where Kingsbury's body was found on June 7th. He then returned to Winona and said he couldn't get a hold of Kingsbury, the state stating Fravel changed the license plates on Kingsbury's van in the process. Prokopowicz also giving details of Kingsbury's heavily decayed remains, wrapped in a fitted bedsheet with a towel tied in a slip knot around her head. Investigators matched these items to others found in the Winona residence. Defense attorney Zachary Bauer telling the jury this is a case of tunnel vision, revisionist history, and secret truths, telling the jury to be vigilant when it comes to witness testimony and what evidence investigators collected or ignored. Bauer giving an example of vomit in the backyard of the townhome that investigators failed to collect DNA from. Bauer arguing investigators were so invested in Fravel they overlooked other possible suspects, advising the jury to pay close attention to where Kingsbury's body was found, noting the rural maintenance road had been searched thoroughly multiple times. Bauer telling the jury that Fravel was under constant surveillance starting April 1st. Kingsbury's body was found 68 days later on June 7th. Bauer instructing the jury to listen closely to testimony from friends about the alleged choking Kingsbury faced at the hands of Fravel, stating the witnesses previously compared stories and that investigators found she had searched choking on multiple XXX adult websites. Fravel's defense also claiming Kingsbury was misleading about her relationship, leading to secret truths.
After opening statements, the state began to call witnesses, starting with the officer who responded to the Winona home the night Kingsbury was reported missing.